Um, and let me. Okay, welcome everyone. We're here for the open house of FlightDeckFriend.com. My name's Adam Beebe, a senior broker at Latona's. I'm joined by the owner seller of FlightDeckFriend.com, Tim Taylor. Tim, if you would please say hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Um, Thanks, Tim, and thank you for joining us. Before we start officially, I want to do a little housekeeping here. Tim and I are all set, but if someone else on this call hasn't already done so, you can dial into the audio. You can use your computer mic like myself, or you can use a phone. Uh, Only Tim and I will be the ones talking. If you have questions, please submit them via the question function in the GoToMeeting software. This open house will be available as a recording within 24 hours, so you can always refer back to it on latonas.com. So without further ado, let's talk about the actual deal. What everybody's seeing right now is the actual deal slide, the listing slide from latonas.com. Once you log into your Latonas account, the revenue, the expenses, the uniques, the page views, a couple other things. They're blue, so if you click on those numbers, they'll give you the last 12 months breakdown. So what we're looking at here is a site that does over 20,000 per year in profit, little expense, asking price of 59,000. What we're going to do now, and Tim, I prefaced this earlier, um, there's a history of the site. It's been around since 2012. Over the next minute or two, kind of the Reader's Digest version, maybe explain what caused you to want to develop the site, how you got the site, did you start it new? Some of these I know the answers to, but why you're involved in the site, and what progression it's taken since its inception. So I'll go ahead and put myself on mute. I'll cue any questions, so to speak, until after you're explaining. Tell us about the history, please.
Thanks, Adam. So the conception of the site came around early 2012, after I'd got my first job as an airline pilot. And I felt I'd built a wealth of knowledge that would benefit other people in terms of how to become a pilot, how to go about getting your first pilot job, which can be tricky all over the world. And I wanted to put it down all in writing, really. And I was umming and ahhing whether to do it put it into a book or a website. And I thought, well, a book in the long term is not really going to continue to bring in any income, whereas a website would have a potential to generate income whilst also growing. So that's what I started to do, put down some ideas initially onto paper, which consisted of providing a guide as to how you become a pilot in what was 2012 then, and having continually updated that through 2015. And also, once you've completed your pilot training, placing a lot of emphasis on then how you bridge the gap from completing your training to getting into that first pilot job. So the site initially started out with that framework, concentrating on those two areas, and it really just started off as about a sort of 5 to 10 page project. And over a 3-year period to where we are now, the site's grown continuously. It's just been myself involved. During my spare time, we get a lot of time off down route when we're flying, and I'm someone that gets bored easily, so I've just kept putting pen to paper and added sections and added content continuously, and it's now up to 120 pages. We've developed, I say we, it's me, but it's a term I use, but the site's now developed into providing specific services. So, for example, providing tailored CV and cover letters preparations for people, which I spend a fair bit of my time doing with regards to the time I actually put in to the website. That provides a pretty steady income. But also organising simulator checks for people, etc. Which there's got a commission deal with a company called Virtual Aviation, and an interview preparation commission deal with a company called Aviation shake. But as you can see from the slide, it's now split into a few main sections. So looking at selection preparation as well as the latest jobs, through to a low-hour pilot section and a smaller section as ask a pilot. Should we move on to the next slide, Anne? So yeah, this is the pilot career shop. So it just shows an overview of the products that we offer. All of this is the website's created through Wix.com, which is essentially a WYSIWYG builder, as I'm not too technically capable, I guess. But all of these you could buy through Wix, and then the payment is through PayPal. And where someone with expertise would be able to do well with this is just be able to make a straightforward payment system. As I think potentially just having one payment method through PayPal could possibly put potential customers off. But you can see the different products that are offered there. So there's a few guides for various airline selections. So tends to go through what a typical simulator check with those guys like Ryanair or Flybe, for example, might include. What you can expect when you get into the assessment day, sort of standard interview questions, and quite a big seller that does quite well for me is the airline interview question bank, which consists of 300 questions, both technical and what we would call in the industry, and I'm sure you guys would be familiar with it as well, but competency-based interview questions, and they don't all have answers. Probably about 50 of the competency-based questions come with answers with a bit of direction as to how to answer them. But it's just highlighting what questions you should prepare for if you're going to any stage of an airline selection process, whether it be a low-cost carrier or a major carrier or a flag carrier, as we would call it in the UK, or even if you're going into, for example, flight school training, and a lot of flight schools actually want to interview you before you start the training, just to make sure that they're happy that your airline material. So generally, we tell people, if you can answer the 300 questions that we've provided, you're probably going to be able to answer the vast majority of questions that get thrown at you at the interview selection process. Should we look at the next one? This is our Facebook page. This picture is actually of the account that was set up originally, which was set up actually as a person. We now have a business page. The business page is the page that we use to provide updates to our followers. So we've got a follow base of about, I think approximately, it's over 13,000. It's about 13,300 at the last check. And I would post updates on the Facebook page containing information about anything that we've updated onto the site. So if we've updated the job section, so the low-hour pilot job section, that individual page, that receives the vast majority of the hits actually onto the website, as that comes up as the #1 search page on Google for quite a few search listings. But typically, if we update, for example, that page or the latest pilot job page, we would put an update on Facebook to try and give the update as much exposure as possible, and that gets quite a lot of click-throughs.
Okay, thank you for that. What we are looking at here is, anyone can go to this, the way back. Just shows that there were impressions in that domain name starting in 2012, which is consistent with our listing. You do have analytics on the site. This is from September 20th of 2014 to October 20th of 2015. The spikes, are they, go ahead.
So typically, when the airline industry is doing well and there's a lot of recruitment going on, or a lot of airlines tend to recruit at once, which can be a little bit seasonal, and they often want to recruit throughout the winter season where there is less demand, and to have their new pilots ready to come online for sort of spring, summertime, which is where the demand is highest, and as a pilot where you're going to get worked the most. So typically when a lot of airlines are recruiting, the site will do better, and that's the spikes. You can see just a little bit of a drop off there was for about a 3-week period in September. That happened um, prior. Sorry, that happened after we actually put the site up for listing. So there's no connection between the two, listing the site and seeing a slight drop off in traffic. The traffic's now completely recovered. It was due to an issue with Wix, the hosting provider, and Google, and the way that the Google search bots were indexing the site, and they temporarily weren't able to index the site. So we saw a few of the pages. Well, it was actually it was about 2/3 of the pages drop off the Google search rankings, which responded quite quickly to that because it did affect a huge number of their customers, and therefore, people's businesses and livelihoods. And that's all now fixed. And the analytics that we've received for the last week and a half back to normal are all back to roughly about 1,300 visitors a day on average.
Okay. It's got some nice spread of traffic. The UK and the US are obviously the top two there. Any Have you made any intention of moving into one country that you're really not getting traffic from? I mean,
No, they haven't. I guess the vast majority of people that come from the United Kingdom was because it is a UK-based site, essentially. So there is quite a focus on UK airlines, probably more so than there is for other countries. But I mean, the views from the States has picked up a lot over the last couple of months since I've posted a few jobs regarding airline jobs within the States. And I think there's probably quite a big market to branch out into there, just by size of population compared to the UK. And yeah, I don't, unfortunately, really, due to a promotion at work, which is part of the reason I'm selling it. I've been promoted from a first officer to a captain, and now into the training department. And for the guys from the States, that's the equivalent of going from the co-pilot to the pilot. And that's brought on some extra workload, especially with the extra training I'm going to be doing outside of this. And this just means that I've really got to start to prioritise. And whilst it's been great fun running the website, I've got to think about how I'm going to spend my time. And yeah, if I was in a position where I could put enough time into this to keep it going, something like the United States market, and focusing on across the Atlantic as well as the UK and the European scene, I would certainly be putting a lot more emphasis on that, I think, and that would naturally grow the traffic.
okay, we can touch upon that a little bit later too, as far as why you're selling. But that's good information. Organic search is the overwhelming majority of where the traffic comes from. I don't really see anything else to talk about here. If needed, you're not paying for any traffic, and organic search is the predominant source of traffic. Um, you can see some keywords that people are searching with. Have you ever done any AdWords? Have you ever bought any traffic?
I've never bought anything through AdWords. I do occasionally, probably once every 3 or 4 months, just do a couple of days on Facebook, more to get likes on the Facebook page than anything else, just to raise awareness, and that converts then into long-term consistent traffic that people keep coming back for.
Okay.
But we're talking sort of £30 or £40, every 4 months for that, which in dollars, I guess, is something like $60, $70.
Is the site responsive? Interacts well with mobile?
Yeah, there's no specific mobile site or setup for it. It will appear on mobile as it does on desktop.
Okay. Well, you're getting a good spread there, whatever the division there, whatever the word is.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've never felt the need to change it on the mobile, because from me viewing my mobile phone, I'm quite happy with how it looks and ease of use, etc. I think it's
Sure.
quite an
Really
easy and
has to be
intuitive.
kind of an older site and outdated to the extreme. Yours definitely is not.
Mm.
Have you done many? Are you part of any link exchanges? Buy any links? These are naturally occurring?
No, no, these are I haven't. I'm not involved in any
Okay.
exchange or anything.
This pretty basic link profile. Just given the size of the site, this doesn't have any real relevance unless it does have a lot of links. Um, I would imagine some of these prospectus. Is that like a job site? Uh,
Yeah, so that would essentially be a site that would be owned through the UK government, providing details on education. So a prospectus, that's ac.uk would stand for academic.uk. And you have websites where they will provide information on if you want to do this in life, this is how you do it. If you want to be a fireman or a policeman or a doctor or nurse, and they must obviously link becoming a pilot, and because it goes into quite a lot of detail, more than any other site that I've ever seen on the internet, they deem it decent enough quality to link it straight through to flight deck friends, which is nice.
mm-hmm. Okay. This is available to anyone. We just pulled it. It looks like the 21st of October. SEM Rush. Um, has the traffic, the sources, has it been pretty constant since the inception? Obviously, you may have created Facebook later on, so that increased social media. But has it primarily been, majority organic?
Yes, it has certainly for the last 2 years. Probably for the first year, it was direct traffic as I was sort of getting used to how to generate organic traffic and sort of did my own crash course on SEO and things like that and getting everything submitted to Google and appearing on search engines. But as soon as I got that figured out and getting the site ranked quite highly on a lot of the relevant Google searches, it's the vast majority is now organic. So for the last two years, which is when the site's, I guess, really taken off in terms of visitors and revenue, that's certainly been the case.
Okay. Other keywords via SEM Rush that, and to be candid, my eyes aren't what they used to be, so I can't see this, but this is available through SEM Rush. Any keywords that you think are relevant to talk to as far as it naturally ranking for?
Well, certainly so. Pilot jobs, low-hour pilot jobs come up quite highly. I try to focus actually on other areas of the site because whilst that's where we pull a lot of the traffic from in terms of looking at what pilot jobs there are there, etc. Those pages don't really generate any revenue, rather other than a bit of sort of AdSense revenue, and of course it does interest specific companies on coming in and advertising with us. So Emirates Airline have recently been out. In fact, they still are. They've got their advert on there till about the 22nd of November. So yeah, it's great to have that traffic coming in and focusing on those pages to generate the numbers that we need to get other airlines or companies interested in it. But I like to focus on try and focus on the keywords. For example, pilot cover letters, pilot CVs, which come up. It changes between the first and second page of Google, but most of the time they seem to be on the first page of Google, and of course that's where a lot of the revenues generated. Same with pilot interview questions. The aim is to keep that on page one of Google because that it drives revenue.
Showing referring domains here, the backlinks we already covered. You don't really actively harvest those, if you will.
No.
Okay, uniques, monthly uniques. Pretty consistent here, bouncing between 25 and 30,000 per month. I know a lot of this is the factor of how the airline industry is going and hiring. Um, Anything you care to add about that? I mean, it seems it's within a 5,000 variance there. That shows some consistency. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Adam, it's quite cyclic, the industry. So in times of recruitment, there's more updates to post on the site. That
Yeah.
tends to drive more traffic when people see that the site is being updated regularly. If you go through periods where it's more difficult to put fresh content on there for whatever reason, then you're always going to see a drop off in traffic. So
Okay.
that's the reason for the fluctuations.
Fair enough there. The page views are now within this 80 to 100,000. Do you remember offhand the spike here? What happened in March? Did
So
you go ahead?
what I was doing was a little experiment basically to try and drive page views and see if that made a big difference to the AdSense income, which was to when people essentially put more pages on the site by directing people to look at a specific pilot job. So, for example, say Ryanair are recruiting, and then when they click on um, read more, it doesn't then link them directly to the Ryanair job website to apply through. It actually would take them to another page on flightdeckfriend.com, which just lists a little bit more information about it, and then just says, "Would you like a CV or cover letter for Ryanair? And would you like to buy the interview question database, or do you want to just go direct now to their site and look at it?" So whenever I was adding a job at that point, I was also adding a secondary page to it. So for someone to view the job details, they would essentially have to access a minimum of two pages, assuming they went directly to the job page. That was something that was quite time consuming. So it's whilst it worked to a certain extent, it's not something I've continued with. It's not something that it's something that I would like to continue with. I think there's certainly potential there, but it's all about time for me. This is a part-time job, and it needs full-time. It needs someone full-time on it, really.
Makes sense. Tim, this is the section we talked about prior to the open house here. There's going to
Hmm.
be 7, 8, 9, however many slides you sent us. Um, I'll have, and I have weaved in questions within the presentation already, but any questions that come up, I'll bring them up at the end of you talking about the admin section. If you would, just address what you see, the screen. And when you're done talking about that screen, just say next or advance or whatever is fine. And I'll continue doing that as if there's something that's not addressed within the whole admin monologue, if you will, I'll have some questions for you at the very end. So with that, if you would, you mentioned it, but for some late arrivals, let us know what platform the site's built on, and take it away.
Okay, so this is the Wix editor, which is the platform for FlightDeckFriend.com, and it's essentially a WYSIWYG editor. It's very basic to use, but quite powerful and quite effective, I would say. So you can see on the far left of the screen where you've got the green tab that's highlighted, which has brought out the Pages menu. Well, that's essentially the page manager. So you can see it lists every single page on the website. You have the main menu at the top where it says Home, and then under Home, there are the subsections for that section of the site. So that will continue, and say another main heading might be Become a Pilot, which you can see on the menu in the header, and under that you would have all the sub pages for Become a Pilot. You can select that page and essentially manage the SEO page settings. So adjust the title, description, keywords, the address, the name as it appears on the menu. And you would select that page if you then wanted to edit it. Further on the left-hand side of the page, under the green tab that's selected, you would use those tabs to, for example, insert text or insert a particular app, insert some HTML code, images, and then it's literally just drag and drop. You put it onto, you would deselect the menu pages that are up so that you're just looking at the website page itself, and then you can just drag and drop everything you like around the page. It's a a very intuitive platform to use, which is why I chose it, because yeah, I don't come from a particular a website technical background, so I had to sort of learn this from scratch and develop the site from scratch in that respect. Should we look at the next one, Adam? So this is yeah, a good illustration of the page once the menus are removed. So you could select any block of text, any image, any ad, for example, and move and select it as you like to. The header section, which so that is from the very top of the page to just below the main menu, which lists the main sections of the site. That's viewable on every single page. So anything that you add up there, you can make sure it's viewed on every single page. So, for example, you can see the banner, the red banner that's slightly above the menu at the moment. That's advertising campaign by Emirates Airlines that are paying flightdeckfriend.com to display that banner over a 3-month period. And that will appear on every single page of the website. You can see the ads both sides to the left and the right, and that's just a case of putting in the AdSense HTML code into an HTML box, which you have the option to do. Next slide, Adam. So this is the latest pilot job section of the site. So I've set this up into a list format, and that makes it quite easy to manage, so that if another airline starts recruiting, or sorry, if the same airline starts recruiting, say 6 months later, you don't have to re-enter all the data and the images, etc. You can simply bring the previous listing up to the top and just update the details as required if they've made any changes. So to add a new listing, for example, you would simply just click on the menu, or sorry, click on the listing area. It will bring up an option to say, would you like to add a listing or change or remove a listing? And it will bring up the box that you see just slightly to the right of the page with the title List Settings, and that allows you to keep it consistent in the format, allow you to have the title. You would link the title to potentially either another page to address the recruitment detail in more information, which I spoke about a few minutes ago, which I was doing to try and just drive an increase in page views, or as you can see from the Read More button, these would link on these examples directly to that airline's website. The images that are listed there are all royalty-free images, so they've been purchased from one of the big bulk image providers on the internet, and so they'd be included with the site, the folder that has got all of those images in. But yeah, this list, to summarise, makes it nice and easy to manage. If we look at the next slide. So this menu, as you can see at the top, so the very top menu that's been selected, the bar that says Wix, that's actually obviously part of the editor, and to quickly navigate through pages rather than bring up the big menu on the left-hand side of the page, you can just navigate to any one of these pages by selecting and clicking on them. Next slide, please. So this is in the Manage My Website section of flightdeckfriend.com. Any emails that you get through the email address that I use, services@flightdeckfriend.com, it all gets listed. So you can see 603 people have used the form to contact the website. So some areas of the website have a online form which you're able to enter your information in order to make an inquiry, or at the top of the website there's also a section where you can subscribe yourself to any sort of newsletter, and this will allow you to access individuals or send out group emails, etc. You can see on the left as well, there's a site membership section. So what I've brought in now is allowing people to have access to the airline interview question database for a 1-year period, and they would send an application through to purchase it, and once they've paid for it, I would then go into requests and click on either accept or block, and that's something that's been brought in very recently. Next slide, please. Again, this is the management side of the site. So from here, you can manage the domains, you can manage the online store, again, manage the contacts, etc., or change your personal details, etc. So it essentially provides the main control panel for the administrative side of the site. Next slide, please, Alan. So the website has an online store, and a nice convenient way of managing it and listing products is through the Wix built-in online store. Again, it's very good for formatting to keep everything nice and consistent and neat and tidy. So I've just utilised their store app in order to present the information as clearly, as concisely as possible. The downside is, from my point of view, is the payment side. At the moment, through the online store, I'm only accepting payment through PayPal, and I think I mentioned it earlier, but a professional company who are able to look at this full time would hopefully be able to implement some kind of immediate payment system through card payment in order to manage that a bit better. Because I've always just wondered if having to pay through PayPal, you might have to set up an account or log into PayPal, for example, to actually make the payment. But that's maybe something to consider for the future. Next slide, please, Anne. Again, yeah, this is the page that you would see when you first log into the flight deck friend account. It will give you the option to either manage it, edit, view it. There wouldn't be an upgrade option because it's already premium e-commerce. And then, as you can see, you can manage again as before the domains and mailboxes, etc. So next slide, please.
Okay,
So
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just was addressing someone there. Did a great job with the admin. You eventually answered some questions that had come up. Thank you for that. And I took myself off mute, and hence the pause. As you're looking at, Tim, this is the revenues 12 months that anyone can look at on Latona's listing. On the Latona's listing by clicking on the annual revenue figure. I mean, just pointing up the obvious, up and down, up and down. Why is that?
it's probably not quite as up and down as it looks on there. So what happens is the majority of payments are taken through PayPal, other than when other companies want to advertise on the website directly. They normally just pay a bank transfer into my personal account. But the CV and cover letters, the purchasing of any airline briefing packs, or the airline interview question database, I accept the payments through PayPal. So I send out a PayPal invoice and get it back, and then I withdraw the money from PayPal at some point, as and when I need it, really, as a sole trader, and make that transfer. So the way I've broken down the figures are that it's when I've withdrawn that money that was generated from the site, from my PayPal account. So as you can see, so in dollars, it's obviously, you can see it's fluctuating from roughly sort of $700-800 through to $4,000. But that would be because 1 month I don't withdraw, or I withdraw very little, and then the next month I withdraw a lot. There is still obviously a fluctuation in the amount of revenue that comes in terms of the CV and cover letter section, and the interview question database section is going to do well when people are trying to get interviews and when people are going to interviews. But it's not quite as sporadic as maybe that graph makes out.
Sorry, we're
So,
attending to someone here. Sorry about that. That's clear. Um, I get it's 25 or just over 25 for hosting. This what happened in February? It's $100, but what happened?
yeah, that would be a purchase of a yearly premium e-commerce plan through Wix, and then the rest will just be monthly payments to Wix for the account. And then you can see a slight spike from June onwards. That was just me introducing a few other functions into the website, which I paid a little bit extra for, which was allowing the search function on the website, because there's so much content on the website. I felt it really needed to have the ability to search it rather than trying to look through various pages. A quick and accurate way of finding information if people need it, and that costs I think £3, so roughly about $5 per month. And I've also recently just purchased a site booster, which just as an experiment really to see if it made any difference in terms of the revenue. But these are two apps that you could purchase through the Wix app store. So Wix, the hosting provider, they provide some premium apps that you can pay for as bolt-ons to the website. So that was a slight rise. In fact, sorry, I'll tell you what yeah, sorry, no, I was correct in the first time. It probably also would have coincided in February 2015. Maybe with the domain renewal.
Okay, and we're not talking about much there, but I appreciate you being detailed there. Okay, let me preface the question. You have a certain skill set, one of which is obviously being a professional pilot. So you're going to have some inside and already information regarding the content of the site. But maybe briefly tell us your skill set, and then go into what's required in running the site and how many hours it takes you to run it.
Well, obviously my skill set is being a professional pilot, having experienced going through flight training, etc., experienced the frustrations of waiting a few years to try and get that first flying job, and being able to empathise with people. But yeah, that essentially all of that information is freely available on the internet. It's just about bringing it all into one place, as I've done with flightdeckfriend.com. And the appeal of flightdeckfriend.com is it's got all that information in one place, accommodating a large group of pilots, whether you're looking at becoming a pilot, you are a pilot but you're looking for a job, or you're an experienced pilot that needs a bit of help with bumping your career up through a CV or a cover letter, or some advice maybe. In terms of updating the site, the actual updates, the majority of them that I do now are simply updating which airlines are recruiting and which aren't. In my experience, if people can see the sites being updated regularly, people visit it regularly, and then those visitors are more likely to trust the brand, become used to the brand, and therefore purchase one of the products as required. I would spend an update to put 2 jobs on the site, for example, would take me in the region of about 15 to 20 minutes. So would simply have a look, right, which airlines are recruiting that I haven't got on the site, or that haven't been updated for a while, right, these ones, see if we've already got a stock image or not, put a few details on using the list builder that was shown a few slides ago, and then put a message on Facebook just to say this has been updated.
Okay.
So that's the basic update of the site. In terms of the CV and cover letters are obviously the areas that take a bit longer. I wouldn't say I've got any sort of specialist skill in CVs and cover letters, other than I'm quite good at putting pen to paper. It's amazing the quality that you see of CVs and cover letters coming through, because we offer a proofreading service, for example, and the policy is that send your CV and cover letter in. If we can't improve on it, or I can't improve on it, I would just say, can't improve on it, that's fine. that's not the reason you're not getting an interview. Maybe have a think about have a think about the airlines you're applying to, or are you setting your standards too high, etc. Um, but it, the quality can be really, really poor, and I'd be quite happy as part of the sale of the site to go through the CVs and cover letters that I've written for people to show that the standard that I'm producing. And I guess the difference with what I do when I write a CV and cover letter, what a lot of guys do, is I'm specifically targeting an individual airline. So I'm doing research, I'm researching the airline and trying to match the information that the person's given me, or if they've not given me enough information, I'll approach them with a questionnaire that's already pre-written to try and extract their skills, their life experience or work experience, and attributes, and try and match that with the type of airline's operation. So the attributes that you would want through working for a major or legacy carrier are going to be a bit different for if you're doing things like crop spraying, or if you're working for a smaller regional carrier that's going to be more focused on efficiency rather than customer service. So that's what I look into. I wouldn't say it's a specifically unique skill set. It's just having the awareness that that's what airlines are looking for. I would say a CV, I mean, obviously I'm quite fairly quick at it because I've done hundreds and hundreds of them now, but I would say a cover letter would normally take me roughly about half an hour, and a CV, dependent on the information that's been provided by the customer, would take in the region of about an hour, which, yeah, when you look at how much is being charged, isn't too bad. So, well, it would be essentially, based on that, it would be £119 the current rate, which I'm just converting into dollars for anyone that's tuning in from America, and that would be $182 on the current exchange rate for about an hour and a half's work. So it's a pretty good it's a pretty good way of generating profit, and of course there's no expense associated with it other than the website. So hopefully that's given you a breakdown of the hour requirements and skills.
Makes sense. And if you were to keep the site, how would you grow it?
So I grow it in several ways. I would bring out a mobile app. I did start working on it, but I just haven't had the time to do it along with doing the CVs and cover letters and things. And that's the problem with being the only person that runs the site. You know, I can only give up so much time for it, and if I've got a load of CV and cover letters on, well, that's time that I can't spend on developing and growing the site. And you know, whilst I was able to grow the site a lot quite quickly in its infancy, it's at the point now where I'm just not able to keep up for it because of the workload that's coming in through the other streams, such as the CVs and cover letters. But I would include a mobile app which would allow you access to the latest pilot jobs and the low-hour pilot jobs. Again, you could have a becoming a pilot section, or you could have interview tips and preparation. So there's a big section on the website that lists, you know, how to prepare yourself for an airline interview. And that's all free information, and it's fairly specialised information that I'm providing for free there, in terms of what to expect. It's the questions that I charge the money to access, but a fairly comprehensive look at what to include, and that could all be monetised by getting it into an app that you download for, you know, $5 or something like that, and then you could have push to phone notifications that there's a new latest pilot job that's come up. And I think, yeah, at a reasonable price, it's something that people would look to download and purchase. I mean, other areas, as I mentioned earlier, expanding into other markets. So at the moment, the site's heavily European-based. It doesn't really cover FAA regulations, for example. We're run by EASA, which is the equivalent of the FAA for Europe. I mean, it's all fairly similar in how it works, but there are specific details which are quite different. But I mean, as you saw from, or you maybe have seen in the prospectus, the vast majority of traffic is from the UK, and I think there's a potential to tap into a huge market in the States and equal the traffic statistics that are coming from here. But again, that would it takes work and time, which unfortunately I'm not really able to dedicate to the site at the moment. I was actually on the phone to the managing director of Virtual Aviation, who have a commission agreement with. Um, they provide simulator training in the UK, and he phoned me to talk about a new product that they're offering, which is a type rating on the Airbus A320 and um, Boeing 737 aircraft. And a type rating is once you've completed your flight training, you then have to be trained up on on the specific aircraft that you're going to be employed to fly, or that you would seek a job on. And they're now offering what are called self-sponsored type ratings, and they've had a huge amount of interest in it. But normally, if they're getting interest in it, the amount of hits they get is absolutely nothing compared to flightdeckfriend.com. So it's the kind of thing that if it was to go on flightdeckfriend.com and put out there and marketed, then you're talking commission for a single booking of £1,500. So in the region of about $2,500. So that's just been thrown at me, unfortunately. Well, I would probably sell the site regardless now of that, due to time commitments, as I've explained before. But it goes to show, what opportunities there are out there. And there's where flightdeckfriend.com has a lot of strength is the size of the audience and its reputation within the industry. It's quite well known, especially in the UK, but also around Europe as well. And people look to it for trusted information. And I think that can be capitalized on by branching out into, okay, we're offering type ratings through our flight training partners of Virtual Aviation. We introduce them to Virtual Aviation. They book a 737 type rating, and that's fairly easy money in the bank for fairly little work. There's so many things I'd like to do with it, but unfortunately, unless I go part-time at my own job as a captain, which isn't realistically going to happen for the next 10 or 20 years. I think it's time to hand over the reins to someone else and let them develop it and reach the potential that it's got.
Okay. Why are you? Well, you've already covered this, but just put a cherry on it if you would. Why are you selling?
So earlier this year, I was promoted from a first officer to a captain, or a co-pilot to a pilot, as the general public would normally be familiar with it. And I've also been promoted into the training department. So I'm now training other pilots how to fly our aircraft. With that brings quite a lot of other responsibility outside of work, or outside of my normal flying hours. So I have to now write exams, prepare lessons, and things like that in my own time. And you've got to have a bit of spare time for yourself. And if I would keep running the site in its current capacity with just me by myself, I'm just not going to get any time for myself to spend time with my family. And my girlfriend won't be too impressed with that. So I've got to choose one or the other, and flying was always my long-term goal for my career. I've managed to get to the point where I want to be, where I'm now a pilot and a captain, training other pilots. The website was good fun to run for the last 3 years, and it's built me a sort of great. It's brought me in some income, which has helped pay off my flight training, which has been very, very useful. But I've really taken it as far as I can take it, and I'm going to have to wind down the amount of effort I put into it now. It's unfortunately not sustainable for time purposes for me now.
That's pretty clear. As you overheard, I was offline helping some people, especially during the admin section. Last call for questions. Anyone listening live here, send them over. While I'm waiting for those, this is me. That's my phone number. That's my email address, and that's my Skype handle. Again, this open house recording will be on Latona's here within 24 hours. This is the last slide, so I'll wait just for a moment for questions. Tim, you did a great job. I appreciate it. Um, what I haven't mentioned yet, but what's apparent when someone goes to the listing, is you can request a prospectus on the site. Um, the way that's achieved is you contact me by one of these methods, or you click a widget there where it requests a prospectus. I'll get sent the request. I'll make sure you have a signed NDA. If you don't, I'll send one via EchoSign. But then we can also send you a prospectus on it. So, Tim, last call. We're good for questions. Tim, again, thank you for your time. You did a great job, and I will be in touch.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Adam, and everyone else that tuned in. I hope I managed to answer any queries and questions you had.
Did a great job. Thanks again.
Cheerio, thank you. Goodbye.